Good morning. Welcome to Sky News Breakfast live from Weston-super-Mare. As Storm Eunice is set to batter much of the UK and Ireland today with extremely strong winds and torrential downpours too. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning and says conditions could see flying debris, resulting in danger to life and damage to buildings and homes. And the government's emergency Cobra committee is meeting this afternoon once again to discuss the response. It really is a day to stay at home if you can, cancel your travel plans and stay away from coastal areas. And here's how things are looking. Storm Eunice is set to bring widespread disruption to many parts of the country, with red warnings for Wales, the southwest and the southeast. Freshening winds will gust up to 70 or 80 miles an hour inland, even higher on the coast, up to 90 miles an hour along coastlines, with the risk of storm surges too. Now, winds of this strength are rarely seen and pose a risk to life. An amber wind warning is in force for much of England and Wales, with the potential for damage to buildings and homes, travel disruption and power outages too. The yellow warning for Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland is for wind and snow, with blizzard conditions expected in places. Now, Storm Eunice is already having an impact. Around 2,000 properties in Devon and Cornwall have lost power so far this morning. Western Power Distribution is hoping to have people reconnected later today. We are monitoring that situation for you. Now, Storm Eunice is set to cause major disruption to travel, as you would expect. All train and bus services in Wales have been suspended for the entire day. And the M48 bridge over the Severn has already been closed, with police suggesting there's also a high risk for the closure of the M4 Prince of Wales Bridge too. Now, in England, rail providers, including London North East Railway, South Eastern, Avanti, West Coast and East Midlands Railway, are encouraging people simply not to travel. And in the last half an hour, British Airways has confirmed it has cancelled a number of flights due to this severe weather. They haven't yet confirmed how many or for how long, but do check before travelling to the airport. Hundreds of schools around the UK are also closed today. Now, that includes all schools in North Wales, all schools and colleges in Somerset, as well as dozens of schools in Cornwall, certainly some here too, where we are in Weston-super-Mare. Now, in the Republic of Ireland, schools across 9 counties will also shut today following a red wind warning. Hundreds of flood warnings and alerts have been placed around the UK, including in England. The Environment Agency has issued 10 severe flood warnings, all located around the estuary of the River Severn, the highest possible warning, meaning a risk to life. There have also been 125 further flood warnings and alerts. Now, around Wales, there have been 136 warnings and alerts made, as well as 14 currently in place around Scotland. We are being blown about here, do bear with me. In Ireland, there are red and yellow warnings for flooding in some coastal counties. Drop it down, Ed. This is the scene from our live storm cam at Fistral Beach in Newquay in Cornwall as gale force winds batter the southwest. We'll have this on your screen throughout the morning. Now, flood warnings have been issued along the River Severn, and Sky's Katie Barnfield has the latest from Epney in Gloucestershire for us.
Here in Epney, that red weather warning is now in place for high winds. It's already been pretty blustery here this morning, but they have been told that the worst is to come as the wind speeds build throughout the morning. People here are being warned to expect wind speeds of upwards of 80 miles an hour. But the real danger here, the real concern is flooding. This is one of the areas that has been placed under that severe flood warning. There are 10 in total around here on the banks of the River Severn, and the concern is that a tidal surge that is expected around 9 o'clock this morning, combined with those extremely high wind speeds, could cause the River Severn to break its banks. Now, I was out last night with residents around here who were desperately trying to shore up their homes and businesses with sandbags, but the fire brigade and also the Environment Agency were going door to door around here telling people that it was not enough and that they really needed to leave their homes. They've also set up respite centres here this morning for anyone who does experience that flooding. But a lot of people were telling me last night that they didn't want to go. We've seen quite a few people out and about here this morning who haven't heeded those warnings and have decided to stay in their homes. But there is some severe damage expected here from flooding later this morning.
Well, that's Katie Barnfield there in Gloucestershire with flood warnings in place along the River Severn. We can also now give you an update from Ashna Hurinag, who's been braving the elements for us in Porthcawl on the south coast of Wales.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Sally, that Storm Eunice has absolutely arrived. I'm here on the seafront, my cameraman Phil cleaning the lens there, because we are being sprayed by so much of the spray and the scream, I believe it's called, the foam, I guess, over these waves. And look at the way that people are still coming out to take pictures, and this is exactly what people are being urged not to do. The Environment Agency saying that that's far too dangerous and it's simply not worth the picture. But look, the extent to which this is really battering the country is in the fact that we've seen so much preparation up to today. Yesterday, the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, said that most schools in South Wales, North Wales and Mid Wales are going to be shut. All the way from Swansea to Newport, this red warning is stretching right across the south of Wales. Not only that, but public transport affected too. The Stagecoach bus company, Stagecoach, have cancelled. Here we go, a bit of that. The Stagecoach have cancelled a lot of their bus services, but big double-decker buses aren't going to be running. Oh, we're just going to turn there. So we're really getting battered by the wind. Great television, though, as always. But the advice is really to stay inside and not risk coming to places like this. It's already turning out to be a pretty treacherous place to be. Schools also, as I mentioned, disruption to those kids learning. But having said that, it is half term as of tomorrow in this part of the world. But it's really those waves that are starting to build up. Worth saying, though, that high tide has passed. So in theory, it should only get better from here, but you're still seeing a number of people coming out to take the sights in, but they are being urged not to.
Ashna Hurinag there in Wales for us, and we're just across a stretch of water from there, live in Western Supermare this morning, where that red weather warning has been in place for a little over 2 hours now. We're monitoring the situation across the south coast of England with several webcams showing us live footage. We can take you now to this scene in Cornwall, live pictures of waves crashing into Polzeath Beach on the county's northern coast as we monitor those pictures showing Storm Eunice as it batters the UK. We can cross now to our island correspondent, Stephen Murphy, who's in Phoenix in southwestern Ireland. Hello to you, Stephen. Ireland being badly hit by Eunice too. What's the latest?
The storm really landed here in the southwest of Ireland a bit earlier, in the early hours, because there was a status red wind warning in effect in counties Kerry, where we are now, Cork and Clare as well, from about 3 a.m. Now, that was downgraded to orange here at 8 o'clock this morning, but you really wouldn't know it if you are out and about. And the authorities here are very keen to warn against any sort of complacency, because the storm is pushing eastwards, and County Waterford, a bit further east, is still on a red alert warning. But you may be able to see and hear there are still incredibly strong winds and incredibly strong gusts in this corner of Ireland, and the authorities are still very much telling people to stay indoors if you can. We're in Phoenix, just outside Tralee, County Kerry. You may be able to see a couple of people have taken to the water there for a swim, and obviously it's a matter of individual choice, but authorities here are very much encouraging people not to do things like that and to stay at home wherever possible. It will be a number of hours yet before these heavy winds die away as the quick-moving storm continues to push eastwards. It's not just this wind either. There's snowfall as well in parts of Ireland. You can see a dusting of snow in the mountains here, but it's really in the northwest, places like Sligo and Leitrim, and particularly in Donegal, that have experienced snowfall, and that is adding another treacherous element. It's really the power situation here which will become a big problem in the hours ahead as well. Currently around 55,000 households, mostly here in the southwest part of Ireland, are without power. But it is going to be a number of hours yet before the crews, the council crews and the electricity crews can actually get out and do a full assessment. So we do expect that number to increase. It will be a number of hours yet before a full storm damage assessment can be carried out here as Eunice continues to move eastwards across Ireland and into the UK.
OK, Stephen and camera crew, take care over there. Thank you very much indeed for that update. Well, Storm Eunice has caused travel disruption across the country already, as you might expect. And we can get more from Sky's Milena Veselinovic, who is monitoring the situation at London's Paddington Station for us. Good morning to you, Milena. What's the disruption so far? And indeed, how much worse could it get when, of course, that red weather warning comes into force in around 45 minutes' time in the capital?
Good morning, Sally. Loads of cancellations here already. No trains heading to Swansea or to Cardiff. If you want to go to the southwest, Exeter is the furthest you can go. In theory, there are services running to Bristol each hour, once per hour, but some of them have been cancelled. And there's a speed limit along the entire Great Western Railway network, and that will delay travel, the operator has warned. And as you say, we have that red wind warning happening from 10 a.m. this morning. This is likely to make travel even worse. Now, train operators have asked people not to travel today if they can help it. It does seem that the majority have heeded that warning. If you take a look over here, there are still a few people travelling, but it really is a far cry to what this station normally looks like during rush hour on a work day. We've been told by station staff as well that yesterday was particularly busy, so it seems that most people had wanted to go to wherever they wanted to go before this storm hit. Now, if you've got tickets for today, they will be valid until Monday the 21st, but the train operators warning that disruption is likely to continue throughout the weekend as the train lines are being inspected for damage as well.
OK, Milena, across that situation in terms of travel for us, thank you for now. We'll be back to you later. Well, earlier we heard from the Security Minister, Damien Hines, about the preparations the government has made ahead of Storm Eunice. Have a listen.
There are troops on high readiness standby. Got the Environment Agency on the ground. The networks themselves, of course, have to be very much plugged in and active, and they are. The red warning is what it says it is. It is a warning of danger. There is a risk to life and limb, and indeed, when you have these big weather events, of course, there can be those risks of being cut off. Everybody is, as I say, on a state of readiness, a state of alert, but it is the weather, it is nature.
We also spoke to Roy Stokes a little earlier, a spokesperson for the Environment Agency, who reiterated just how serious the weather warning accompanying this storm really is.
We've got our barriers up along the River Severn corridor, and it's a case now of just seeing what comes in this morning. If the high winds and the storm alert wasn't enough, we've also got 10 severe flood warnings in place. That means there is a risk to life. I cannot stress how important it is to take heed of these notices and to listen to the emergency services and take their advice. This is a really serious situation.
Now, this red weather warning has been in place here on the south-west coast and in South Wales for around 2.25 hours. We are monitoring this situation as it develops, very much learning the information in real time along with you. And that's why it's so important that we would love to hear from you as well with any videos or pictures or information of how Storm Eunice is impacting your area so we can bring it to our viewers. Please do send us any updates to news@sky.com. That's news@sky.com, or you can tweet me directly @Sally Lockwood. I've heard from one viewer already who's updated me to say that schools in Reading have been closed today as well, certainly some at least. And more updates from this area to say that schools are closed here too, as well as many schools in Cornwall, Somerset and of course Wales too. We understand the government is to hold another emergency COBRA meeting this afternoon about how to respond to any disruption and damage to Storm Eunice. You may remember that after Storm Arwen in November, there were houses in the northeast of England and in Scotland which were left without power for 10 or so days. That is not a situation the government would wish to see repeated. Many people, they're critical of their response, feeling that they'd very much been forgotten by Westminster. So the government holding another emergency COBRA meeting today in response to Storm Eunice, one of the worst storms to hit the UK in 30 years, and a red weather warning issued for London and the southeast of England for the very first time. That is coming into force in around 40 minutes' time. We will be monitoring this situation for you across the morning. Do get in touch with us if you have any information to share. For now, though, back to Kamali in the studio.
Thank you very much, Sally, and the entire team and the Outside Broadcast doing a magnificent job. Thank you. Well, turning to the crisis in Ukraine now, and earlier in the programme, the Security Minister, Damien Hines, told me that the UK wanted to work with Russia and once again urged against any invasion.
We're very clear that were there to be a further incursion and invasion,